Good evening, folks. Welcome back to the channel. So today, a recession was official based on two consecutive quarters of negative GDP growth or GDP contraction. So as promised, I want to briefly discuss what a recession actually is, what I foresee for this recession, why it is a recession, despite what the talking heads in the media and the politicians tell you, and just really cover those things. And so this should be a quick video. Um, Also, I want to cover the weirdness in the market because it's weird because we've had like bad news twice this week, and I mean maybe not bad news, and maybe it's priced into the market already, but we've had another interest rate hike by the Fed of 75 basis points or 0.75%, which is not that standard, but this is like our third one. But the market reacted by shooting up, and then today a recession is declared. And then what does the market do? Well, it shoots up again. So I think part of what's driving it is that second quarter earnings for a lot of companies have been a lot better than expected. Amazon has come in exceeding expectations. Mercado Libre is looking to really break out tomorrow. Looks like their earnings hit a record. Google looked very good. Netflix beat earnings, even though they had some negatives like subscriber contraction and whatnot. So a lot of companies are posting really good earnings reports, despite what the media may tell you about the state of the economy. The economy is not fundamentally weak, but we are officially in a very mild, and I think what will prove to be a short-term recession based on what's happening with inflation and the supply chain. And as long as this supply chain issue or issues have gone on, at some point, somebody's going to come in and be able to figure this out. I mean, in my opinion, we've got a lot of like overeducated people in positions of power that have never run a business or done anything significant as far as like meeting a payroll or actually doing something like executive or entrepreneurial in their life. So what happens, education's great. Like I'm all for education. Like I'm going to have a dual master's degree in 6 months. So I'm educated myself, but you also need doers in positions of power. And you need people that can solve problems. And I think that skill is severely lacking um, in many positions of power as it is. I mean, I think the private sector and the free market, they naturally produce that. But I don't think the political system and the public sector, I don't think they're inherently designed to produce that. And I'm saying that in a way to be at the least controversial that I can be. But long story short, like the supply chain stuff is BS. I mean, it wasn't happening 2 years ago. It just drags on, and nobody seems to have an answer for it. So at some point, there are going to be people that come in that are going to figure things out, and it will end. So, like I said, things always change for better or worse. But as far as this recession, um, what qualified us today for a recession, what allowed us to cash in the recession coupon, if you will, is negative GDP growth for the second consecutive quarter. And that is the textbook definition of a recession. And despite what anybody says, that is the definition, and there's no getting around that. So today, GDP was projected to grow at 0.4% or 0.4%. Instead, and I have it up on my screen here, it contracted by almost a full percent or 0.9. So this is very mild, especially compared to the GDP contraction that we saw in 2020 when we had that pandemic and we had the recession uh, based on that. That was a very short-lived recession also. But I think this one will be even milder and even shorter lived. And I'm guessing that the market has already priced everything in because we're seeing just insane upswings in the market. Like today, the Dow went up 332 points, the Nasdaq was up 130, and the S&P was up 48, almost 49. And the S&P's back over 4,000. Nasdaq's back above 12,000. The Nasdaq actually had one of its biggest percent gains earlier this week um, in a while. So that's all really good news. But it's really seeming like the market is priced in at this point. It's priced in all the bad news. We'll see what happens going forward. I mean, we always find out one way or the other. But let me see if I can pull up a GDP chart here by quarter. Because what I want to show is how mild this actually is, or how it's going to be, how mild it's going to be. Let's see here. Should have had this up beforehand. Okay, here we go. This is kind of what I'm looking for. So by comparison, this is going to be very mild. If you look at, was first quarter down 0.4% also? Because so if we look at the Great Recession of '08 and '09, GDP contracted here, as you can see, for 4 quarters in a row. It was down over 2% in the worst quarter. And then if we look at the 2 quarters of negative GDP growth for the pandemic, which will not be named, we had 1 quarter of almost 2% contraction. Then we had an insane like 9% contraction. But then in the third quarter, we shot way up. And as most of us know, the market shot way up too. And then since then, we've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We've had 6 consecutive quarters of growth. Well, now we're back in another recession. And this is what some experts predicted as when we had the V-shaped recovery or the K-shaped recovery. Some people predicted like a W-shaped recession. So like a W is like this. So this, in a way, like kind of further out than was expected, we're kind of seeing a W-shaped recession. So 2020 was here, we had a recovery, and then now we're back down here again in a trough, and then this side of the W, we come back. So that's kind of like, in a way, it's like an overdue version of the W-shaped recession that experts predicted. But just to wrap this up, so yes, this is officially a recession by definition, despite what the politicians say. There's no avoiding the fact that this is a recession. And what Biden said today and what his press secretary said today, I have to put this in here. What they said today about this not being a recession, unfortunately, I have to give that a big fat. It's just completely wrong. So with all that being said, hopefully you enjoyed that. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'm going to have more exciting dividend videos coming soon. By the way, being that the market was green, I have a green shirt today. Remember, I try to make my shirt, color my shirt indicate the direction of the market for the day, just in case you weren't following. So thank you so much for watching. Take care, and have a good rest of your evening.